that sound was bone, not a branch snapping, not a rock splitting in the sun. Bone, the neck of a 2-ton animal, folding shut inside a set of jaws you have never once been taught to fear. Welcome to the worst neighborhood in the entire history of this planet. You are standing 234 million years ago. There are no birds in the sky above you. There is no grass under your boots. Grass won't be invented for another 100 million years. And every continent you have ever set foot on, every place you've ever called home, is fused together into a single, monstrous landmass so wide that a raindrop falling in the dead center of it could dry up long before it ever found the sea. Scientists call this supercontinent Pangaea. The animals living on it didn't need a name for it. They needed one thing, and one thing only: water. And there wasn't any. The creature in front of you, the one that just went quiet, is called Ishigualastia. Picture a rhinoceros crossed with a snapping turtle. 12 feet of sun-baked hide, a pair of stubby tusks, a hard beak, and a body built like a parked pickup truck. For millions of years, her kind owned these plains. Big, slow, tough as a boot heel, and right now, dying of thirst in the dirt. She is the old world, and the old world is about to be overthrown. But not by what you'd guess. Not by the monster that just killed her. That monster is doomed too. It just doesn't know it yet. The thing that inherits this planet is hiding behind a rock about 40 feet away, shaking like a leaf, no bigger than your dog. Here is the strangest part of this whole story, and I want you to sit with it for a second. Everything you think you know about who was in charge back here is upside down. The armored giants were not the ancestors of anything that made it out. And that trembling little runt in the shadows? Its family tree runs straight to the biggest, boldest animals this planet would ever grow. On this particular afternoon, though, it is just trying very hard not to get stepped on. Keep your eyes on it. Because over the next 2 million years, the sky is going to do something it has not done in a very long time. And when the rain finally stops, the meek won't just inherit the earth. They'll rule it for the next 100 to 65 million years. Meet the landlord. This is Fasolasuchus. And before you go filing it under dinosaur, stop right there, because it isn't one, not even close. This is a crocodile cousin, a cold, ancient branch of the reptile family that had the run of the planet long before any dinosaur amounted to anything. Now look at the size of it. Nose to tail, this animal stretches close to 30 feet. Longer than a full-size pickup with a trailer hitched to the back. A row of bony plates armors its spine like the deck of a battleship. Its skull is as long as your arm, packed with teeth built for one job, punching through hide and bone in a single bite. Some paleontologists think Fasolasuchus was the largest meat-eater to walk the land before the true giants showed up. Whatever the exact number, understand this. Nothing out here messed with it. Nothing. And it wasn't alone out there. All across Pangaea, its armored cousins filled every job a predator could hold. The ambushers, the pursuers, the bone crushers. If you drew up a list of the toughest, most dangerous land animals on Earth 234 million years ago, it would be crocodile-lined reptiles from the top of the page clear to the bottom, with barely a dinosaur in sight. Let that sink in for a second, because it's the exact opposite of the world that's coming. This is what running the world looked like back then, not the dinosaurs you grew up seeing in the movies. These armored crocodile cousins were the apex predators, the heavyweight champions, the undisputed kings of the dry country. They were built for heat, built for drought, built to wait in the dust for days until dinner wandered close enough to grab. They had earned that crown over tens of millions of years. It fit them perfectly. And that, right there, is the problem with wearing a crown that fits too perfectly. When the world changes the rules overnight, and it is about to, the animal that's perfectly built for the old rules has the farthest to fall. Remember that. It's the whole story. Now here are the nobodies. This little fellow is Eoraptor, one of the very first dinosaurs that ever lived. And I want you to really look at it, because if you had been standing on this plain 234 million years ago, and somebody told you these were the future rulers of the Earth, you'd have laughed them off the continent. It's the size of a beagle, maybe waist high if it stretches. It runs on two skinny hind legs, it's got little grabbing hands, and it spends most of its short, nervous life doing exactly what it's doing right now, hanging back, out of sight, waiting for the big boys to eat their fill so it can dart in and steal the scraps. That's the dinosaurs' place in this world. Bit players, extras. In the whole cast of animals out on these plains, dinosaurs are a tiny sliver, maybe 1 in 20. The armored crocs run the show. The big beaked plant eaters run the buffet. The dinosaurs? They run away. But here's what nobody on that plain can see. Being small, being quick, being able to eat just about anything you can catch. In a stable world, those are the traits of a loser. In a world that's about to be turned completely upside down, they are the only traits that matter. Think of it like a poker table. For millions of years, the armored kings have been sitting on the winning hand. Brute size, heavy plating, a body built for heat and drought. The little dinosaurs got dealt garbage. Small, weak, forced to fold every round and scrape by on the leftovers. But a hand only wins as long as nobody changes the game. And the dealer, the planet itself, is about to sweep every card off the table and deal an entirely new one. In a single stroke, the giants are left holding a hand worth nothing, and the runts are left holding the only cards that count. The little guys aren't weak. They're waiting. And the wait is almost over. Somewhere far across Pangaea, the ground tears open. This isn't a single volcano blowing its top like Mount St. Helens. This is something the Earth only does a handful of times in its entire history. A crack in the crust, hundreds of miles long, vomiting out lava, not for a day, not for a year, but for hundreds of thousands of years. Geologists have a name for the scar it left behind. They call it Rangelia, and it changed everything. To give you a sense of the scale, this wasn't one mountain blowing its top and then going quiet. Picture the ground cracking open all the way from Chicago to New Orleans and bleeding molten rock, on and off, for longer than our entire species has existed. And here's the thing, the lava was only ever a local problem. What did the real damage to the whole planet was invisible, and it came pouring out of that wound right alongside the fire. Here's what that much lava does to a planet. It doesn't just burn what's nearby. It belches carbon dioxide, millions upon millions of tons of it, straight into the air. And carbon dioxide is a blanket. Throw enough of it over the whole world, and the whole world starts to sweat. And this blanket doesn't lift after a bad week. Once that much carbon is loose in the air, it lingers for tens of thousands of years, holding the heat in the entire time. The planet doesn't spike a fever and then shake it off. It spikes a fever and just keeps climbing. The temperature climbs, then it climbs again. The great dry heart of Pangaea, already an oven, cranks up past anything its animals have ever felt. And now watch what the heat does to the king. That heavy armor, those big, slow muscles, that battleship of a body. Every single thing that made for Solasuchus, the champion of the dry country, is now working against it. A big body soaks up heat and holds onto it. The armor traps it. There is nowhere to cool down and nothing to drink. But the heat, believe it or not, is the gentle part. The heat is just the opening act. Because when you pump that much steam and warmth into the sky over an ocean, you don't just get a hotter world. You build a machine, a weather machine, the size of a hemisphere, and it is about to switch on. So why are the little guys still on their feet? Look closely, because the answer is hiding right there in their bodies. And it's the same set of cards that's about to win them the whole planet. Card 1. They're small. A small body sheds heat the way a cup of coffee cools faster than a whole pot. When the world turns into a furnace, being little stops being an embarrassment and starts being a lifeline. You've felt a piece of this yourself. Ever notice how a little kid can tear around a hot backyard all afternoon while a grown man has to go find the shade? Small bodies dump heat fast. Big bodies hold on to it. On a normal summer day, that difference is nothing. On a planet turning into an oven, it's the line between living and dying. Card 2. And this is the one scientists still argue about, which makes it the fun part. There's growing evidence these early dinosaurs ran a hotter engine inside. A faster metabolism, something closer to a warm-blooded bird than a cold-blooded lizard. If that's true, it meant they could stay active, hunting, moving, hiding, while the big reptiles had to shut down and wait out the heat of the day. Card 3 is tucked inside their chest, and we'll come back to it because it's the ace. For now, just know it has to do with the way they breathe. None of these cards made the dinosaurs kings. Not yet. On a normal day, they were still just nervous little scrap eaters dodging the landlord. But the days were about to stop being normal, and a hand that's worthless in a stable world becomes unbeatable the moment somebody flips the table. The table is about to flip. For as long as any animal here has been alive, the sky over the heart of Pangaea has been a locked door. Bone dry. It did not rain here. It was not allowed to rain here. There's a reason for that. When you shove every continent together into one giant slab, the middle of it winds up thousands of miles from any coastline. Ocean moisture simply can't reach that far inland before it wrings itself out of the sky. So the heart of Pangaea baked under a permanent drought, year after year, century after century, for a stretch of time that dwarfs all of human history many times over. Dry was normal. Dry was the only thing any of these animals had ever known. But that volcanic furnace has been pouring heat into the oceans, and hot oceans hand off enormous amounts of water to the air. Now that water has to go somewhere. The pressure builds, and builds, and builds against that locked door until the door doesn't just open. It gets torn off the hinges. One drop. The first real rain this land has felt in longer than any living thing can remember. It lands on the eye of the old king, and the old king is too spent to so much as blink it away. And then the whole sky comes down at once. This is the beginning of what scientists call the Carnian pluvial episode. Forget the fancy name. Think of it as the 2-million-year rain. Not one endless storm, but pulse after pulse after pulse of it, coming back again and again over a stretch of time so long your mind can't hold it. The rains would arrive, soak the world to its bones, ease off, and come roaring back. Over and over. For 2 million years. And here's the cruel joke buried in it. For millions of years, these animals wanted nothing on Earth so badly as water. Now the water has finally come. And it's come with a vengeance, and it is going to kill far more of them than the drought ever did. Be careful what you wish for. The land had been waiting for this rain since forever. It had no idea how to survive it. The old kings are drowning in the change. The little ones are drinking it in. Here's the thing about a world that's been bone dry for millions of years. The ground forgets how to handle water. There are no deep-rooted forests to drink it up, no thick carpet of soil to soak it in. So when the 2-million-year rain arrives, it has nowhere to go. It just sits there. The rock-hard plains that carried the weight of 30-foot predators for 100 generations turn, almost overnight, into a bog you could lose a horse in. You know what happens to a dirt road the first hard rain after a long dry spell? How the top few inches turn to grease and the tires just spin. Now picture that across an entire continent, and picture it not letting up for centuries at a stretch. No drainage, no deep soil to soak it in. The water just pooled and sat and turned rock-solid ground into a black swallowing soup. And now the very size that made the old kings unbeatable becomes the thing that kills them. Watch this. A heavyweight predator lunges after a meal, the way it's done 10,000 times before. But there's no solid ground under it anymore. Those heavy legs, that armored bulk, all that muscle, it drives the animal straight down into the muck like a fence post. It fights. Of course it fights. And the fighting only sinks it faster. Across the whole flooded world, this same scene is playing out 1,000,000 times over. The bigger you are, the worse your odds. The mud doesn't care that you were the champion. The mud doesn't care about your crown. The bog becomes a mass grave for the old order. A graveyard so rich that hundreds of millions of years later, our own kind would dig their bones out of the stone and wonder what on earth could have brought down a monster like that. The answer was water. Just water. Falling out of the sky day after day after day until the ground itself became a trap. But drowning in the mud is only the first way the old world dies. The second way is quieter, slower, and far crueler. Because while the predators are sinking, the plant-eaters are about to face something worse than any bog. They're about to sit down at the biggest dinner table in the history of the planet and starve to death right on top of it. The rain didn't just fill the rivers. It woke up the plants. A world that had been a rust-colored wasteland erupts into green. New ferns, new conifers, whole new kinds of forest march across a continent that hasn't seen this much life since forever. From horizon to horizon, it is a paradise. An all-you-can-eat buffet the size of a continent. You'd think this is the happiest moment in the whole story. The desert blooms, the rivers run, and every hungry animal on the continent finally has more food in front of it than it could eat in 100 lifetimes. That's what you'd think, and you would be dead wrong. Because the old plant-eaters are starving to death in the middle of it. This animal is called Hyperodopedon. For millions of years, its kind were the cows of the ancient world. The most common big plant-eaters out there, chewing through the low, soft, familiar vegetation of the dry country by the millions. But their whole body was a specialist's tool, built for one specific menu. Their jaws, their beaks, their guts, all of it tuned to the old plants. And the old plants are dying out, shoved aside by the tough, fibrous, resiny new forest the rain brought in. Hyperodapedon is standing in the greatest feast the world has ever laid out, and it cannot eat a bite of it. It's like handing a man with no teeth a plate of raw walnuts. The food is right there. He starves anyway. And it isn't just one unlucky animal. It's an entire way of life blinking out. These beaked plant-eaters were the backbone of the old world, the buffalo of the Triassic, out on the plains by the millions. When they go under, everything that ever fed on them goes down right along with them, one link in the chain dragging the next one under. This is how a dynasty really ends, not with one dramatic battle. With a slow, silent famine playing out over thousands of years as a world full of specialists discovers, too late, that the one thing they were perfect at no longer exists. The plant-eaters that ruled the buffet are vanishing. The predators that hunted them are sinking in the mud. The entire food chain, top to bottom, is coming apart at the seams. And into that wide-open, wrecked, up-for-grabs world steps a hungry little animal that can eat anything. Meet the animal that walked into the wreckage and made itself at home. This is Herrerasaurus, a true dinosaur, a hunter. And I want you to notice how it moves, because that's the whole difference between the winners and the losers of this new world. It doesn't lumber. It doesn't sprawl. It runs light and upright, tail held out straight behind it like a tightrope walker's pole, picking its way over tangled roots and soft ground that would swallow a heavier animal whole. Where the armored kings punched through the crust and drowned, Herrerasaurus dances across the top of it. And it can eat just about anything. That's the quiet superpower here. It isn't fussy. A fresh kill, a bogged-down carcass, a smaller animal it runs down in the ferns. It all goes down the same hatch. In a world where the picky specialists are dropping dead by the thousands, being a jack of all trades stops being second best and turns into the single most valuable trait an animal can own. And here is the moment the whole story turns. For its entire existence, the dinosaur has been the coward behind the rock, waiting for its betters to finish so it could steal the scraps. But the betters are gone. The landlord has sunk into the mud. And this time, when the dinosaur steps up to the body, there is nobody left to chase it off. That call ringing through the trees isn't a scavenger's nervous chatter anymore. It's the sound of an animal that has just realized the plane belongs to it now. This is what scientists mean when they talk about the dinosaurs taking off. It happens right here, in the mud and the rain of this ruined world. The old rulers had every advantage on a dry, stable planet, and lost every one of them the moment the planet stopped being dry and stable. But here's the question that should be nagging at you. Why the dinosaurs? A dozen kinds of animals survived that rain. What did these particular creatures have, buried in their bodies, that let them not just survive the flood, but conquer the world it left behind? The answer is 3 secret weapons. And now I'm going to open them up, one at a time, and show you exactly what was hiding inside. Weapon number 1 is hidden inside the chest. It's the way these animals breathe. And to understand why it mattered so much, you need to know one strange fact about the air back then. The air was thin. Not thin like the top of a mountain, thin on oxygen. The Triassic world had noticeably less oxygen in it than the air you're breathing right now. Every lungful gave you less to work with. And in a world like that, the animal with the better set of lungs doesn't just win a race. It wins everything. Here's the dinosaur's trick. On top of ordinary lungs, it's got a whole system of air sacs. Extra bellows woven all through its body, reaching right into hollow spaces inside its bones. The upshot is that fresh air flows through a dinosaur's system in one continuous direction, like a river, instead of sloshing in and out like a bucket. Every breath is squeezing more oxygen out of thin air than the competition can manage. It's the same system birds still use today. And it's exactly why Little Sparrow can fly clean over the top of Mount Everest, while you and I are gasping down at base camp. Stop and appreciate what that buys you. In air so thin it left the competition wheezing, the dinosaur's body was quietly pulling every last scrap of oxygen out of each breath and putting it to work. It's the difference between a wood stove with a good draft roaring away and a damp fire that just smokes and sputters and dies. Same fuel, completely different engine. Now the sprawlers had a second problem on top of thin air. When an animal runs with its legs out to the sides, its body has to whip from side to side with every step, and that whipping crushes and stretches the lungs in rhythm with the running. Which means that at the exact moment it needs air the most, in a hard sprint, it physically can't take a proper breath. Scientists call it carrier's constraint. Out on that soggy, wide-open plain, it meant the old-style runners hit a wall while the dinosaurs were just getting started. Better lungs, thin air. The endurance to run all day when your rivals are out of breath in seconds. That's weapon 1. And weapon 2 is even simpler. It's the reason the dinosaur wasn't whipping side to side in the first place. Weapon number 2 is right there in how they stand. Look at the legs. Really look. On the old-style reptiles, the legs stick out to the sides. Elbows out, knees out, belly low to the ground, the way a lizard scuttles across your patio. It works fine on flat, dry, open ground, but it costs a fortune in effort. Every step, those splayed legs are fighting just to hold the body up off the dirt before they can even think about moving it forward. Here's a way to feel it. Picture holding yourself at the top of a push-up, elbows out, and now try to walk across the room like that. You'd be wrung out in about 10 feet, and you haven't carried any weight or fought through any mud yet. That is the sprawler's entire life. Every single step is a push-up. Meanwhile, the dinosaur, standing tall on straight legs stacked under its body, is holding itself up for free. Now put that